now start individually carving out the gingival margins. So I carved one out already here, the central. I used a Hollenbeck. You can use whatever you prefer. And I just went in and then carved out the gingival margin. And keep in mind that the central incisor, the zenith of the gingiva is going to be not completely centered, but it's going to be slightly distal to the center, okay? So you gotta make this highest peak of the gingiva slightly distal. And then use a wax pen. You can also use a wax pen to make this process easier for you. So here you can go around the margin, just roughly melt it. Then you can use an instrument to carve that portion out like that. You're going to refine it later on. You just want to expose the tooth basically all around the denture first. Okay, so the next step, after you've basically refined the margins here, you want to roll the margins because right now it's edgy and sharp, right? Because you just carved it. So what I like to do is get a wax pen, temperature not too hot, maybe like 90 degrees, 110 degrees, and then just touch the margin all around. So you can see here, if I touch the margin here, it's gonna roll itself basically. Right? I don't really have to do anything. I just gotta let the wax pen do its job. After you roll the margins, now you're gonna work on the roots. So first I actually did it a little bit here already, but I use an instrument, whatever works for you. I like to use the spoon on the discoid, and then go between where you think the roots will be, and then just roughly just create some depressions. So for example, between the center and the lateral, I'm gonna start kind of close to the papilla, and then just go up, and then start creating these depressions. And as you do it, try to shape the root at the same time. So I'm starting here, the papilla, and I'm going a little bit more distally like this to shape the mesial aspect of the lateral root, right? Because the roots are conical, they're not just straight up, right? I think a common mistake that I see is like people do this, but they keep the roots too straight. It ends up looking too straight. So you want to try to carve it anatomically because the roots are conical, right? And same thing, I'm going to go now mesially to carve the distal aspect of the central. Okay, so after you've carved between the roots and at the same time you're carving slightly mesially and distally to give roots that, conical shape, you're basically going to refine the shape of the roots with whatever instrument you want to use. I like to use the Hollenbeck here. So I go from between the roots and then I carve slightly upwards and then come down. Upwards and come down. The reason is the roots are conical, right? And then between the roots is going to be a depression, right? So you're going to make that depression a little bit prominent and round out all the roots in such a way that they are rounded but also very conical. And the roots are going to be thickest at the gingival margin, and they're going to slowly get flatter, and then they're going to disappear when they meet the mucogingival junction. So this is the mucogingival junction right here. So above the mucogingival junction is the mucosa, which is going to be relatively flat, okay? So make sure you flatten the top half of the festooning to show that they are the mucosa, and you can accentuate the mucogingival junction that way. So the central roots, the length of the roots, it's up to you. I like to keep it, about 10 millimeters long, and then the lateral roots, they're going to be much shorter. So the central root ends here for me, and then the lateral root ends about here, much lower, about maybe 5 to 6 millimeters long. And then the canine is going to be slightly longer. Mine ends about here, slightly longer than the central, or about the same level as the central. The difference between the canine and the central, though, is that canine roots, as you can see from the front, it sticks out a little bit more. Okay, so it's going to bulge out and then cave in as you go up. Okay, one common mistake that I see is that people make this too thick. So try to not make it too thick. I like to keep it about a millimeter in thickness, and that's gonna make it look like more natural, not like all swollen up like gingivitis, right? Okay.